So, hello, everybody. I'm just gonna do the intro as usual, and we're gonna get into some chatting with Shinmiri about 7.3. Calling this one Doomsday for reasons that may still be apparent. The doomed scenarios, of course. But,
Okay, I was
yeah.
what?
Wait, what? No, that's all it is. All right, intro time, and let's have a chat, my friends. Thanks for stopping by for the podcast as usual, and it's good to keep doing these.
Yearning
Yeah.
to play a few rounds of Gwent. That ought to set me straight.
Well, we are back with episode 126 of Commander's Horn. It's me and Shinmiri, and I apologize if that video echoed again, but it's going to stay in that way. We are back for the October meta. 7.3 hit us last week and had a bunch of balance changes, some small, some large, but none completely groundbreaking. And yet, the meta is much different than it was before, because we no longer live in a world with double scenarios. And there's been a number of other things that have changed as well. Shinmiri, how have you enjoyed the first week of 7.3?
I have enjoyed it very much. I've been trying all these different decks that have gotten either direct or indirect buffs. So I've been playing a lot of new archetypes in the past week, and it's been a lot of fun. Even if they are not necessarily going to turn out to be tier 1 decks, just like having some variety in the gameplay has been very enjoyable.
I think I talked to a lot of people that talk about how when you're trying out an archetype that's less than tier 1 or tier 2, and you're trying to make something cool work as a deck builder, that there is an inevitability to Gwent. There is not as much variance in Gwent, and sometimes a deck that is tier 1 and tier 2 doesn't really allow you the opportunity to really succeed if you're experimenting. How do you feel about that? Do you think that that's mostly true or not true?
I don't think that's the case. So when it comes to more fun decks or more meme decks, usually you are going to be building something that has a really greedy win condition, right? Mm-hmm. Something like, for example, Aglaeus or Cintran Royal Guard, something like that, right?
Yeah.
So that can get really out of control if your opponent doesn't expect your strategy, or 2, doesn't have the right control tools to limit you. And so you can beat a lot of these more top tier strategies, because top tier strategies can't go ultra greedy. They have to be a little bit more balanced in terms of the amount of greed, the amount of points, the amount of control that they have, right?
But
your Mimi decks can go ultra greedy, and even though they might not work every time, when they do work, they work spectacularly.
Yeah, Aglaeus is around too. I see Aglaeus from time to time, at this point, I'm getting it's a little bit easier to spot it, but
right.
It's the Thunderbolt potion drops. I'm like, oh, I'm really glad I pushed, because there was just no way that they could kind of unpush without dropping their win con. So
right.
I feel like sometimes being able to just push really hard with a really powerful deck and bleed is the bane of those greedy decks, I think, because you need to have that round one threat to even compete in executing your combo, because once you give away control of the game, it can be pretty hard.
Yeah, that's very true.
So the big thing that came in with 7.3 was doomed scenarios, and I didn't get a chance to really talk to you about this. It seems like most of 2020 has been spent trying to unbreak scenarios, and we finally got to the point where a doomed tag is now on them. You cannot play them twice, and it took Caretaker being changed, various parts of the scenarios being changed, like Reinforced Trebuchet. Passiflora was redesigned at one point. Haunt was considered a bad scenario at one point because it couldn't be progressed by leader outside of Death Shadow, I think. And there's just been so many changes and so many requests for dooming scenarios, and only now do we see those scenarios get doomed. Do you think that they took too long to doom it, or do you think that for the most part the timing was fine? Because I feel like the timing is a little odd.
So I would say that they took too long to do it but in a funny, ironic sort of way, the fact that they took so long to do it, from my perspective, it almost seemed like when they did do it, and when they did finally get rid of Bomb Heaver, that the impact was quite minimal. Because, okay, I know that you're definitely not the biggest fan of double ball, and that you seem to run into it a lot more than I do, but before this patch, I was almost never playing against double ball, and I was seeing very, very little Bomb Heaver in the meta. But that's just my personal experience. So the scenarios getting doomed and Bomb Heaver getting removed has had a small impact on my experience, but I think there's still definitely the step in the right direction, and it would have been nicer to have these changes like half a year ago, but it is what it is, and now I think the game is in a better state when it comes to scenarios.
Yeah, so for me, my issue with double ball was really just the frequency. It was the frequency of seeing it. It stopped being about power level. It stopped being about like if I thought that it was like worth nerfing or not. And it was just that everybody was playing it. I would play against it a number of times every day for every day that I've streamed to this year. It just seems like I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but it was frequent enough that I always had to tech for it. I always had to worry about Bomb Heaver and when I'm destroying it. Now people are saying, Alex the Pro in the chat here is saying that if you add I always forget how to pronounce this, Angulem, you can play two scenarios because you can play your opponent's scenario potentially. Yeah. Is that realistic? It doesn't seem realistic because what are you going to do with a Haunt if you're not running Death Wish or something like that?
Well, you would, if you play Angulem, you would be playing some sort of cards or leader that can get activators for your opponent's scenario. So like Double Cross as a leader, I actually tried this deck yesterday.
Yeah, last night you were playing a similar.
So Angulem, Bribery can get you something, leader, Double Cross can get you something, Brothans into Duchess Informant, or even playing a Duchess Informant in your deck. Are multiple ways that you can get activators for your Angulem, but like, I played 4 games with it yesterday, and I think I copied a scenario exactly 0 times.
0 times. Yeah. I caught a game. I caught a game in which you lost the game that I caught. You only played 4 games with that deck. I just caught you at the tail end of it, I guess.
With the Angulem specific version.
Oh right, you were playing Portal at the time.
I played Nilfgaard all day yesterday.
Oh, okay.
But only at the start was I playing Angulem, and then after those 4 games where I couldn't copy a single scenario, I was like fed up. So I dropped Angulem and tried different variations of Assimilate, which Assimilate is still really, really fun. And
I love it. If
you haven't played it recently, I would definitely recommend you check it out.
Well, this is a great segue. People were talking about nerfing double ball and the state of Nilfgaard in the same sentence, which I think are 2 different things. I think that the power level of Ball really shouldn't have spoken to Nilfgaard as a faction like the rest of the cards. Like, you can't take double Ball away because there's nothing nearly as strong in Nilfgaard already.
Oh, your mic cut off.
Oh,
I can't hear you anymore.
When I hit it? Test. Oh, shit.
It's like quieter now, too.
Check it.
Okay, yeah.
There we go. Sorry about that, guys.
Good again.
What I was saying was Nilfgaard as a faction has had more to it than Ball, but I think that the perception is that their card pool is a little bit weaker. They don't have raw points like in the same way that other factions do. You played Nilfgaard all day yesterday. How do you feel about Nilfgaard in general right now?
I mean, it's definitely on the weaker side, but I don't think it's like unable to compete at all. I think it's just going to be a much more narrower sort of deck that you have to find a very well-tuned deck and be able to pilot it very well to find success with it. So it's going to take, more vigilance and better gameplay to find the same results, but it's not completely out of the water. Like last month, I had a really good season with Imposter, Imposter single ball. And I think it's still very good in this month, despite the 1 provision nerf to Ball.
And would you like, is Nilfgaard in a position still where they match up well against Northern Realms, or is it getting?
Yeah,
It is. So
they still match up really well against NR.
so could you imagine a tournament meta coming up as we approach Gwent Open at the end of the month? Can you imagine a tournament meta where Nilfgaard is brought in this case because Northern Realms is likely going to be chosen in some way or form? I think.
Yeah, it could definitely happen. I don't know what the NR meta is going to shape out to be yet at the moment, but we saw that at the end of last month, top 64 qualifiers, there was a lot of NR targeting in that weekend with stuff like the Revenant Scorch deck, a lot of decks running like not Scorch, but like Heatwave,
Yeah.
Curse of Corruption, and Becker's Rockslide. Like multiple decks running those 3 card combos just to target NR. And Nilfgaard single ball could definitely be among those decks to target NR.
Yeah, those are so. It's so funny. I haven't the cards you were talking about, Becker's. Like it's a different world in Pro Ladder, and I've been not playing enough to get my ranks back fast enough. But I did grab 2 ranks yesterday because I was playing.
Nice.
I was playing Tailbot's Siege NR that he played on the weekend with Trollolo, and it's honestly good. It really felt good. I was at cruise control with this deck, just running over people. All my losses were my own fault.
Is that Immortals and Damn Sorceress as well?
No. This is Siege for Axis, the 2 duelers, Trollo, some Mad Charges, Cintron Knight,
Nice.
and Egmond and Anna. And by the way, just using Egmond as a 4-drop that deals 3 damage, I did that all day long yesterday, and it was amazing. I had so many monsters matchups though. I ended up actually putting Falibor in just so I could clap on some of the larvas because it was just it was 50. It was, what was it at the end of the day? 8 out of 17 matches were monsters matches. All overwhelming hunger except for 1 fruit stack. And it was just wild. Like on the ranked ladder right now, monsters are dominating. And it's still overwhelming hunger, and it hasn't changed a lot over the last few months. But I feel like there's got to be... Oh, and there was some Carapace as well, but that's not as popular, I think, to me.
Overwhelming Hunger is probably the #1 most popular deck I see at the moment as well. Mainly because Solano Harpy is probably the most interesting buff.
God, I love that buff.
This patch. Yeah, it's so lore friendly. It is very powerful when you get 2 Harpies together. So it's just like it's a similar deck from last month, but they slot in 2 Harpies to bring up that bronze power level a bit and get a couple more consumes in the deck. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I played monsters a little bit this month to make up for the fact that I played very little monsters last month, and I played actually the Harpies and some Beast action with Morvud and Plague Maiden, and it's just a nice wide strategy. I felt like I was able to execute the points, and with the Harpy, if I were able to like kind of collect on that egg, that can seal the round sometimes if you have like another piece of really huge removal like Heatwave or whatever. So being able to kind of flood the board with rats and then getting like Morvud starts at 6. He's a base strength of 6. So for 8, if you have just like 3 rats on the board, he's already playing for 9 for 8. And it just gets better and better from there. Sometimes I was playing it easily for 15 or 16 points. I think Morvud's an excellent card right now, but It's not necessarily an archetype that I think it needs a bit more representation. I'd play it some more. But
I can't say I've seen Morvud, but I've seen also a lot of Plague Maiden with either like Yennefer or Glusty Warp. Or Bone Talisman, stuff like that.
Bone Talisman, Triss strats are always some of my favorite strats as well. I was trying it with some of the new Nilfgaard soldier stuff, Slave Infantry on cows, actually recruiting the cows into the Nilfgaard army. Didn't seem like a bad core choice if you wanted to run soldiers, but I have been doing more experimentation this month than normal, but I've also been doing better with that experimentation than I do in the past. Sometimes I try to experiment and I can't connect, but I think my new thing with playing Gwent now is patience. I need to be extremely, extremely patient. I need to always be. I'm getting better at just planning ahead. I think it's just a skill that I think I get rusty on fast. Yeah.
Are you saying that you need to rope more?
Rope more? Yes. Shinmiri, I need you to teach me the way of the braid. Yes. Teach me the rope. As we can see, some people already showing the rope here in chat, Popa Novograd with the Shinmiri rope emote. which is great. The burning rope, which I think is just so great how Hearthstone has influenced the game world. The rope. It's only a rope in one game, but it's roping in every game. It's so good. So yes, I need to rope more. I need more patience. I need to just... It's the skill that I think deteriorates the fastest when I take time off is not just it's not just so much play order, but like just the really long-term thinking. Like, how is this going to bite me later? Like little things like I see, like I'll see a trophy catch in the hand when I play Triss, and I'll still play into it. Like stuff like that. I just need to think a bit more. But was it a rope in beta? No, it was never a rope. It's always been like a timer meter.
It was a horizontal blue line or something like that in beta with a wolf's crest. Remember at the end there? I liked it. It was good.
Oh yeah,
I like it. I like that more. I think. I have to say, as a rope connoisseur, I prefer the rope in beta more than the one in Homecoming. The rope in beta, it had a sound effect that was very obvious to you that you were like getting close within like a few seconds of roping out. Whereas I feel the Homecoming version, it's a little bit more subtle, and sometimes you can miss it, or it doesn't warn you early enough that you're roping out.
I can't even remember the rope in beta. I can't remember. There's so much that has just been pushed out of my mind. Like just like information goes in, and I have to like willingly forget something that is no longer important. But then I'll see old videos.
Okay, I only remember it. My memory is getting worse these days too, but I only remember it because how big it impacted me at the time, and I remember feeling really shitty about the sound change and complaining to CDPR about it. But unfortunately, they never changed it back. So,
I mean, I'm still waiting for so many things to come back into the game or into the game, and this is kind of a little segue into draft mode. But I will say that. Like little things, I feel like things keep coming back to Gwent, like Blizzard, the soft return of Epidemic and stuff like that. The fact that we actually have colored coins, now that's back. And like, hopefully we get everything back into the game and maybe some new modes as well, as Arena is slated to be removed and replaced with draft mode, which is, if you play Legends of Runeterra, more similar when you pick a bucket of cards, like 3 cards together, than just 1 card. Now, this is something that I wish Gwent did from the very, very start, because so many cards are dependent on other cards and other archetypes. But I'm going to play this mode, I think. This actually sounds like a really exciting mode. Do you have any, you're a very competitive constructed player, but do you play Arena now? And do you think that this is a good step towards having a secondary mode that might be a new way to chill with Gwent?
Yeah, I think it's a great secondary mode. I like that they're redoing it because I do feel like Arena has... it's not even like Arena is a bad concept in the current form. It's just that the card pool has evolved to a point where they kind of need to do something like bucket drafting. Whereas at the start of Homecoming or even in beta, the card pool was small enough that you didn't have to draft in buckets, and you would still be able to get enough synergies. But now the card pool is getting bigger and bigger with every expansion. So I like that they're doing this. I do play. I have played Arena in the past. Currently, I don't play much Arena because I feel like my biggest complaint for Arena is that right now it feels like you can draft. The bad decks that you draft compared to the good decks you draft, the variance is really, really wide. Yeah. And it just feels quite frustrating to try to play a bad draft. And I'm not the kind of person that wants to be like re-rolling my drafts until I get something good. Yeah. I like to play what I'm dealt, but at the same time it's frustrating when it's like so much worse than what other people are playing, because there are probably people out there that are re-rolling until they get some like a 20 gold draft or something like that.
3 Vincents or whatever. Like
So I'm looking forward to the new mode. I played a decent amount of Arena back in beta, and I also played when I was a Hearthstone player before my Gwent days. I played mostly Arena in Hearthstone. So I'm definitely familiar with the game mode and the draft mode. So I do look forward to seeing what's in store with the new mode. I think they're learning from some of the lessons that old Arena mode has taught them, and they're making improvements to it, which is great.
Yeah, I think that I also was exclusively a Druid Arena player for like the first many, many, many weeks of Hearthstone, because it was like the best way to play cards, earn cards, like earn currency, get to experience more cards and more synergies like that. So But with Arena in Gwent, the no faction restrictions, at first in Homecoming, seemed like they were tagging everything up to have more use, like the soldiers in Nilfgaard. I don't think, like, they didn't necessarily have soldier synergy, but Northern Realms did, so you could draft those soldiers, or you could draft those siege engines like the Fire Scorpion and stuff and make it matter in Northern Realms. But I think with the buckets, it's going to solve the problem that you were just saying, the variance between a bad deck and a good deck. The bad deck floor is going to go way up because you're less likely to draft something that would give you low value, like a single Dun Banner or something like that. You are more likely to draft 3 Dun Banners at the same time, and then you actually will get value out of your bronzes. Because if you're missing value on your bronzes and your opponent has 20 golds, you have no chance. It's also completely unpredictable. You have no idea what's coming. That's another thing about Arena, where you don't really play around in the same way. Like, at least in Hearthstone, you knew if you could play around epic cards, because the chances that they would have that specific epic card would be less likely. But I just kind of feel like it just is anything goes in the Arena, and it's just, you don't really know what you're playing within or without a reach of at any given time.
The most fun part of Arena is getting these like cross faction synergies, right? You discover combos that you never thought existed because of being able to play cross faction cards. It's like if every faction had Nilfgaard assimilated.
Yeah, kind of, in a way. It's true. Assimilate always does well in these kinds of things. Well, actually, sorry, that's a bad example because all these things would start in your deck. But even now, looking at Master Mirror, all the elves in monsters, you could make an elf deck with Wild Hunt units. So that there's something that came right now, came out in the last Master Mirror. And honestly, just thinking about Master Mirror, it doesn't feel like it came out that long ago, but I do feel like we're in the last 2 months of the year. So we have November and December to come out as far as content. A new mode is being teased, draft mode, and an expansion has been said that we are expecting 2 expansions this year.
Right.
So there's 2 months left, and one of those months, CD Projekt Red is releasing Cyberpunk. So I imagine there's going to be some hands-on deck kind of thing. So I feel like we are in kind of a waiting, like something's got to be around the corner. And I've heard that a roadmap is in the future. I'm throwing this out to the chat because maybe you've had somebody has heard a date or a plan, but I just know that my favorite word in Gwent, roadmap. It only ever brings great news. Kappa. So, I mean, but I'm on the edge of my seat, like really not literally, but it's got to be close. We got to be close to some big news. And I feel like any day now could have to be that news, right?
Yeah, maybe, I don't know, maybe something will happen at Open. I'm not really sure if they have announced, like, because usually at Gwent Opens, there's like a segment before the finals, right? Where they either tease the next expansion or a balance update or something. Like that could maybe go there. I'm not sure. Don't quote me on any of this stuff.
Oh, of course, yeah.
But I'm just thinking out loud. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to the last 2 content updates this year. If it's going to be like, if we had to guess, it would probably be the 2 things that you said, right? Draft mode and second expansion. So I'm ready.
Considering that they didn't want to release Journey in the same month that they did a expansion, it seems to me that they may not want to release the expansion and I guess a new mode in the same month. So I think if I was to educate a guess, that November will be all about one thing and December will be all about another thing, I think. So it seems like the last 2 months of Gwent for 2020 should be pretty big. Not just that, of course, World Masters is still scheduled in December. World Masters 2, that is. World Masters 1 never occurred. It is the vaporware of tournaments. Of course, we know why, but it's
yeah,
a weird
I wonder
one.
if I don't have any information on this, but I wonder if like they would ever do World Masters 2 versus World Masters or before World Masters 1 and just have World Masters 2 be in the online format.
I think they are going to do that. I think it's just going to, I mean, we're looking like this is a very real problem we have, the COVID pandemic. It's obviously changed a lot of stuff. We have had a lot of issues, and we've had great tournaments, but there have been a lot of issues with the online tournaments. So the idea that you're having $250,000 on the line, the odds of a disconnect impacting a game, even the match stakes, like that could be Like that could be a new computer you lose if you disconnect. I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating, but I think they need to have. They're gonna have to probably do it in public, and that could take so much time. Still, we don't know.
Yeah, that's true.
But beyond that, I guess what else is there? I definitely wanted to talk to you about the balance patch. I mean, obviously a lot happened, even though the meta is progressing in a different way. It's still very much feeling like not too different from October. Much like you said, double scenarios were kind of maybe on the way out. So maybe we were approaching a meta like this anyway. But I think that overall the changes have been really interesting. Didn't even really talk about dwarves. Not a lot of new stuff about dwarves, but they got a lot of buff. They got a lot of buffs as well, and there were some neutral changes as well. Yeah, a reconnect feature would be nice, anti-held. But Shinmiri, what's your optimistic view of the rest of 2020 when it comes to Gwent?
My optimistic view?
Yeah, like what do you think? What do you think is the thing that we should be the most excited about? What do you think that?
It's got to be the second expansion for me.
Gotta be.
Both the draft mode and the second expansion are very exciting. If I had to choose one, I would go with the second expansion because that always brings new mechanics, new cards, new combos, new characters, even potentially when it comes to like the Gwent and Witcher lore. So always really, really exciting time with a new expansion. But CPR has been very tight-lipped about it so far, and we don't have any information regarding that new expansion yet. But I look forward to leak season if there is going to be one. That's always a theory craft. You know how I love my theory crafting and my Excel spreadsheets and stuff.
Oh man, I love reviewing new cards. It's like. It is when Crimson Curse came out, I'm like, I have been waiting to do a spoiler season video for it was 2 years at that point before we actually got our first real meaty expansion to dissect each card. And I've loved it every time. And Merchants of Ophir took that, took the day by day away from us. We obviously had a lot of stuff to explore on that first day, but you just said, if there's a spoiler season, it's not guaranteed. A lot of time and planning goes into that. There's 2 months left. It could be a surprise. It could be another surprise. Just because it's not historically, there has been of the 5 expansions, one came out with no advanced knowledge whatsoever. December of last year, Merchants of Ophir was just out one day. It was wild. It was a wild week. Did you like that, or would you prefer that it doesn't happen again? I think I'm more, as much as it was wild and crazy, I still think I prefer some lead time. Doesn't have to be.
I'm on the same boat.
Yeah.
I would prefer some lead time. I love the reveal season. I love reviewing all the cards and like planning ahead. I don't mind them just dropping it on our doorstep and everybody exploring. It's a pretty wacky first week.
Yeah.
Everybody's trying new things, but I mean, you get a wacky first week whether they tell you in advance or not.
Yeah.
It's very like I don't even do much for Christmas, but I was gonna say like it's kind of like Christmas morning when you get the new card reveal and you're thinking about all the different combos and decks that you can play them in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what Merchants of Ophir stopped is the pre-planning. Like a card didn't come out being like, oh god, this card's going to be so good with this card. That'll be the first deck I play, and like maybe 2 weeks of discussing how crazy a card is, only to have somebody figure out that a different card entirely is broken or something like that. Whereas if it came out all at once, whatever is found, it doesn't, like, you don't have this faction of people that have been waiting to try this card until it came out. It is just, you don't know what you want. You don't know what to be excited about. It's just there. And I think that the optics on that were not all positive, if they were. Like, I had a couple people message me that didn't follow Gwent at the time that said that it's a bad sign when something like that comes out with any marketing or any push at all, that it could be viewed as a bad sign, a lack of support. I think this year has shown that there is no lack of support for Gwent, just a little slower in expansions, but a lot of stuff still coming. And but I still would, much more prefer at least a lead of a week or so. Yeah. What do you think about it, chat? What do you think about the latest patch, the latest balance in 7.3? I'd love to answer a couple questions in chat. Just a little bit of a shorter chat, but it's for the podcast, but I felt like the intention was to chat more often, and I think I was expecting a little bit more news to occur on a regular basis because of the amount of time left in 2020 and what we're expecting to come out. I know Shinmiri will be talking at least like 2 or 3 more times this year about all the stuff that's being added, but right now, just kind of waiting. But we did have a patch to discuss, and I'm glad you came by, Shinmiri, to discuss it. Is there anything you wanted to touch on as far as what you've been seeing in Gwent over the past week, or what you're trying next?
I think my main takeaway so far from this balance patch is that despite the small number of changes, this patch was small.
Yes.
Right, relative to the other stuff. But it feels like the meta has shifted a decent amount. Just having the Rage of the Seas nerf and the Shield Wall nerf, people are actually... Maybe it also has something to do with this season not being as competitive, not being there's no like top 16, top 64 qualifier for opens based off of this month. People are trying a whole lot of different things, and I haven't felt like pro rank players are necessarily playing the best of the best. It hasn't felt like anywhere near stale yet for me.
Yeah, I mean, I also feel like, I have played Gwent. I think we've done 3 or 4 streams, nice solid 5-6 hours. I've enjoyed myself. It's been great. And the first 2 streams, I just kind of floated in the rank I was at just because I was experimenting, and I still had a good time. I think that the stuff that comes out of deck builders right now is not that wild, not that unfair these days. It just feels like there's more fairness lately. Like I was actually talking about this on the Commander's Horn Discord today I was responding to a YouTube comment about decks that are unfair and how competitive decks need to push the limits of fairness to really rise above. Stuff like Nilfgaard Hyperthin at its peak, consume monsters in beta, which was just like, I can't believe it stayed in the game for that long. That was such a crazy deck. But lately, like Triple Commandos is something that is not top tier, but when it pops off, it feels unfair. Overwhelming Hunger, on the other hand, feels very strong, but doesn't feel unfair. It's just nothing's like surprising. Nothing seems like it's working as it isn't intended. I just think that laugh is stupid, but it's not unfair. Do you feel like the game is in a more fair state when it comes to competition?
For sure. Yeah. For sure. Like I think throughout the entire lifetime of Gwent, in closed beta and open beta, you had the most ridiculous, unfair stuff. You had like Silver Spies with Summoning Circle into like, whatever, or like what was that red coin abuse? You open with Silver Spy and then you cleaver it, and then all of a sudden you're like ahead 10 points on red coin on even cards.
Yeah,
like there's
throwing the spy into the weather.
Yeah,
making units immune. Like it was just and Roach coming out of the graveyard when you played a gold card, so it was like +3 on every gold, and I don't know. There was just so much stuff that was in the game, and the game we have right now. It's a huge leap forward. There's every game has its problems. I follow lots of card games on Twitter, and there is no prairie where we're all frolicking and dancing in a circle. It's every card game has its problems, and I feel like Gwent right now. I do these polls every now and then on Twitter, and the question was, do you feel like Gwent is more or less balanced than its competitors? And I gave 2 extreme options that I was going to discount. And then I gave like the middle options, like slightly more, slightly less. Mm-hmm. Now I have a Gwent fan base, but I know that people who follow me and who follow us play other card games. I know it. So it was a positive response. Seems like people are feeling like Gwent is more balanced than its competitors in a lot of ways. Partially probably because of lack of variance, the ability to play at your full strategy, the ability that you're not going to get run down by aggro and not be able to play. But at the same time, control is very good. It's just, I don't know, like the more I think about it, I have, I float in and out of how I feel about the game. But the game right now is it feels good. I'm really excited for the upcoming tournament for sure to see what people
So we're like, 2 weeks out, basic's
2 weeks as of Friday, yeah.
Yeah, so I feel this is the most, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I have no idea what people are going to bring to Gwent Open. And I feel like for Gwent Open number 2 and number 3, the ones that I was a caster for this season, 2 weeks out, I had a pretty good idea what people were likely going to bring. But this time, I really don't know.
Yeah, like Uprising was killing it for a long time, and then we saw, like, I think that Shiro was a bigger surprise for me, but I wasn't following the game as much when Shiro kind of showed up for that last tournament. But yeah, it's like Northern Realms is going to be a pick, and scoia'tael seems like you'd pick for top tier, but the other two picks, I don't know where I would go necessarily.
You know, I have a prediction.
All right.
I think that this Open will have the highest variety of factions, decks, and archetypes in recent history.
That will be, you know what, I might have to do a little research. I have a Word document that has every tournament and the meta that was in that tournament. So I can go back and take a look. Because
Nice.
I think I have a number of like notes like this one was the most diverse. And Panda is a great person to check with because he keeps all his stats. Panda is one of the best. Here's why it's awesome to work with Panda. He comes with research. He comes with research and stats. He comes with the facts, right? He just comes with the facts, and he's a good player. And this is why he's such a good caster in any game he covers, because he does a lot of background research on the players and the decks and stuff like that. So even though you don't see him as much as you might see Shinmiri and I, he's just a data fiend when it comes to card games, and you can really see that passion there. So we'll have to see. I think that you could be right, though. This could be very, very diverse. For sure.
I think one of the factors leading to that is because there's not going to be a top 16, top 64 qualifier this month. Right. And so usually when there's an Open, there's qualifiers 1 week and 2 week out. The competitive players that are going to Open are looking at those and looking at what decks other people brought, how they performed, and a lot of times they draw inspiration from those tournaments 1 or 2 weeks out to come up with their own decks, whether it's copying those decks or trying to counter those decks or whatever. But this season, there's nothing like that. Maybe there might be like a community tournament, but I don't know if there will be as many eyes on that as something like GWENT Open qualifiers.
So last time we chatted, there were 2 community tournaments lined up. Actually, we were scheduled to cast one of them, Wild Hunt Online, but unfortunately, the tournament client prevented the tournament from actually starting, and there was no backup. And I believe there was another tournament that had, I believe, like the part of the bracket was erased in the middle of the tournaments. I saw it referenced. I see Trinet post here and there. I know he runs a lot of tournaments on his channel.
I think it's one of his tournaments that he runs like weekly.
This wasn't
for his community.
Elder Blood tournament, or
Elder Blood tournament is coming up. I think that's the one that's going to be coming up before Open.
Okay.
So people might be looking at that.
Yeah, I think that's worth it. I think that having that kind of thing happen as like a pregame, because it's not guaranteed. Like the people that compete in community tournaments that aren't the people that you would normally see in Opens. They will play very differently. Like they'll play very differently. They'll bring different decks, and it could be wild. However, it also could mean that a deck shows that it just ends up having great matchups, like just some outside the box thinking instead of seeing like the mathematical approach of some of the pros. So yeah, what's the chat saying right here? People saying the latest patch is pretty good. A strong 8 out of 10. Pope and Deadly Lobster agree. Seems like this season Nilfgaard's only hope is lockdown. I don't think that's true. Why is Imperial Formation like out now? I know it lost 2 points, but it seems good to me. It seems like it's a realistic choice. Like it is still a lot of points with Affen. Even New Morvrand is like not even a crazy. Like it doesn't seem crazy to me. But just not what Nilfgaard's doing. It just seems like it's just not what they're doing.
For me, it's still Imposter, I think.
Yeah?
It's either, for me, it's like Imposter or Double Cross. I don't know about Lockdown. Lockdown is okay, but I hear this more often than I would have expected. People saying like Nilfgaard's only hope is Lockdown. I think people overestimate Lockdown. And it's like it shuts down your opponent's leader, but it's the 10 provisions is really, really, really low.
Yeah, it's really low. I mean, you have to pay such a huge price these days for that deck. And I remember when it felt like there was a meta where everything was like 15, and now it feels like there's a different sweet spot. Like Northern Realms is able to rock at 13, feels pretty solid right now. Lots of choices, especially in mid-range. If you're looking for like your 7-point cards, this is so many good ones now. But yeah, White Raven 33 in the chat saying that Nilfgaard has no hope. They got power crept. Would you say that that Nilfgaard is being underestimated? Even though, it seems like they're not that powerful, but would you say that there's people aren't really they're kind of leaning into what they're echo chambering a little bit, I think.
A little bit of echo chamber, a little bit like there's always going to be a weakest faction, and I feel like the weakest faction is always going to get unfairly dumped on more so than it should. Like its play rate is usually lower than its win rate justifies it to be.
Yeah, and I feel like Syndicate was the sterling example of this. Just people didn't play it as much, but it was never really bad. But yeah, Nilfgaard people are just kind of like, they're really set on just kind of repeating that chorus. Like if you had to complain about something,
right? I mean, people were saying the same thing last month about Nilfgaard, and I got to 2560 with Imposter last month, which is like a really good score. And it's the way people were making it sound like it's like Nilfgaard, it was deleted from existence.
Yeah,
but you can still get as good of a score as 2560 with it. So like, and I had a ton of fun playing the deck too. So I think it's like claims of Nilfgaard's death are over exaggerated. It
reminds me of Challenger 1 when I was talking to Life Coach after he won it, and he was talking about how you could play every faction up to a certain number, like in MMR.
Yeah.
And while you probably won't get your highest number with what you want, it's still like an amazing achievement to be able to do that. To get it down like granularly, like Nilfgaard can compete at this level and you have a number next to it. It makes me worried that I don't want them to give Nilfgaard too much love. Right? Like, you could say that they need some love, maybe a little bit more to beef up their archetypes that were not poison specifically. But I don't want it to turn into another Northern Realms situation where they gave Northern Realms love and now it's like, oh no, like it's full test commandos of last year. Shield wall is too strong, like things like that. I just feel like the optics on it is not necessarily the truth all the time. Yeah. I think that's good. I think they were promised some love. Yeah, I see that. I think that's the brunt of what I wanted to talk to you about today, Shinmiri, and I think that's a pretty good sum up of kind of the world we're living in right now with Gwent. I'm going to be playing tomorrow, and if anybody's interested in joining, it'll be a fight night. We'll be starting around 1 p.m. EST, and I usually do it on the first Friday, but the patch dropping like on Thursday, I wasn't ready for it, so I'm ready to do fight night. I'm ready to take on some challengers and try out some new decks tomorrow. And I think that'll be the wrap up on the patch.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Thanks, Shinmiri, for your time. Hope you have a great stream today. I imagine you're going to be starting up in about 15 minutes or so, but I will catch you later, and I'll catch everybody in the chat later. I'm going to get this live on YouTube and get this live on the feed, and I will catch you guys later. Shinmiri, thanks again, and let's see where's.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, always, man.
I'm gonna just start my stream like right now.
Yeah.
On my countdown.
Well, that sounds good to me. Well, in that case, I'm going to. Looks like we'll get a good host in. It'll be a nice, smooth transition here. And
all right.
Yeah, next time we're gonna chat. Probably next time there's news. This is for you, and this is for everybody who's watching as well. Got our eyes on news. Obviously, there's going to be something to talk about soon, and when there is, that Thursday, you want to check us out. But I will be doing the outro now. Thanks so much, everybody, for stopping by, and for Shinmiri, this is McBeard.
Yeah.
Best of luck on the path.